Warning, the Renegade Recruiter is not for the soft, timid, or faint-hearted. If you need permission or seek approval from your mother, spouse, mates in the pub, or anyone else for that matter, this really isn't for you. If any of what you've heard puts you off in the slightest, I advise you not to listen any further. You've been warned.
Hi, welcome. This is Terry Edwards from Drew Coaching, helping you to make more placements, earn more money. And welcome to today's podcast. And we've got a special guest today. Not only have we got the ultimate professional Drew Edwards, but we've also got Roy Ripper. Look, and for those that don't know Roy Ripper is an experienced recruitment professional. It's estimated he's worked with over 42,000 recruiters in more than 35 countries, and he's transformed businesses through his books, audio programs, DVDs, online training programs, live events, and personal coaching. Roy's legendary for his inspiration and motivation, and really taking recruitment businesses to the next level. So Roy helps them recruit, train, and retain the superstar recruitment consultants and design an internal process and automated system to enable those businesses to grow. Roy, it's a real pleasure to have you here. Thank you ever so much for joining us. Thanks, Roy.
Thank you for inviting me, Terry Andrew. I'm really, really honoured to be here. Thank you.
Not at all. Well, look, let's get straight into it. I'm giving a brief overview there, Roy, of your background. Can you give me your summary of your background, please, and also a bit about your business as well?
Fantastic. Okay. Listen, I'll try. Look, I don't know whether you know this, Terry, but I grew up in a place in the deepest depths of South London in England called Brixton. And I grew up there during quite a tough time. We had, riots and all sorts going on. But
I thought I recognised your face.
Yes.
It's all coming back to me now. Those most wanted posters, yeah.
That was me. And it's actually a really interesting place. I love where I grew up. I grew up on one of the toughest, council estates in South London, England, in Brixton. I was really, really fortunate, really, really blessed in that, I had a really good family around me, because all of the people that I grew up with, friends, etc., that I grew up and ran around with, they either ended up, in prison or were still dead. So I do feel blessed about that. I started off in retail and ended up in recruitment, and I can tell you a bit more about that journey later. But you asked me to tell me about our business and what I do. Generally, I help recruitment leaders grow their recruitment businesses. But you know what, even more than that, I really, really want people to enjoy the journey. So I have some fun with people. Hopefully everyone that works with me and reads my stuff or watches my videos know that I love to have fun on camera and I love to have fun in print. And when I do one-to-one coaching, the gloves are really off. So, I'm just helping as many recruitment leaders across the world grow their businesses, enjoy the journey, end up more profitable, because that's why we're all in business, and generally, do better for it. That's it.
Fantastic. Thanks. You've made a really couple of good points there about enjoying the journey, because that's what it's all about. It isn't just about the final destination, is it? It is about enjoying that journey. That's I think that's a really powerful point you made there, Roy.
I genuinely believe it as well, Terry, that I think, I speak to a lot of business owners, and they'll always talk about their exit strategy and everything else. And look, that's really, really worthy. And of course, I help people develop that. But one of the first questions I ask them is why. They'll say to me, I want to, get the business ready for sale in 3 years or 5 years, or I want to have a management buyout in 5 years and whatever. And the biggest question I ask them is, why are you doing it? What is it? How does this business serve your life? Because I think that's the most important part of it. If business leaders have, businesses that don't support the purpose of their life and why they're doing something, they don't understand the why that they're doing something, then it all falls down. It's not congruent with their values and their purpose. So I really try and get people to connect with that. It's like, yeah, brilliant that you want a successful business, but why? What is it about that successful business? What will it give your life? How will it enhance your life? So yeah, I do a lot of work with people about that.
Yeah, it's something that we talk with our clients about, that why. One of the questions we ask is, what will achieving your goal give you that you don't believe you have now?
Yeah.
And when they answer that question, we say, and what will that give you? And what we find is those recruitment and search firm owners that have lots of whys also have greater determination and resilience.
Yeah.
As sure as eggs are eggs, look, all three of us in this, as we're doing this interview, we know there's going to be setbacks in whatever business you are. Every now and then the shit's going to hit the fan, Your client's going to let you down, your candidate's going to let you down, the supply, But what we found is those individuals that have that powerful why can pick themselves up and dust themselves off and keep going. And those guys that say, oh, this isn't going to work for me and whatever, and quit, they just haven't got a strong enough why. So another really good point there, Roy. Thanks. Excellent. So Roy, you've got experience as a recruiter. How long were you a recruiter, so to speak, before you went on the other side, so to speak?
It's kind of it's an interesting one because I started off as a recruiter back in 1997, I think it was, which instantly dates me. I know for most of our viewers, I know that there's young and old listening, but that instantly kind of dates me. But I started off recruiting back then, and after a career in retail. And then I was recruiting. I built my first recruitment business with James Kahn, Dragon's Den. People kind of know that a bit about me. But then after that, I got into training. I built that first recruitment business with James Kahn. I'd worked in another recruitment business before that, before coming to set that first business up with James. And then I went into training.
Before we go, what made you go into training? I mean, 18 years recruitment. What made you then go into training?
You know what? I'm so glad that you asked me that question, Terry, because essentially through James introduced me to a guy, an amazing man, a guy called Tony Byrne.
Yeah, I know him well. Yeah. Awesome guy.
Tony was an amazing man, and at this stage in my recruiting career, I'd set up 2 recruitment businesses at that point. The second one was doing very, very well, and I'd grown it up to, I think, about 9 people in the space of about 9 months, and 100% retained, etc., etc. And then James introduced me to this guy, and wow, what an amazing, charismatic man! This guy lit the stage up, and there's never been anybody like him before or since. So.
Yeah.
So Tony, we became actually really, really good friends, and what he did for recruitment training back then, nobody else was really doing, and he was an amazing guy. So Tony said to me, Roy, you know something, you would be great, you would be an amazing recruitment coach or recruitment trainer. Have you ever thought about it? And I hadn't at that point, but what he outlined to me was, he said, look, you've built 2 businesses, you've brought people through those businesses, you've trained them and developed them to produce the same, if not better, results than you're able to do. That's the making of a really, really great trainer. You can communicate. So I ended up doing my apprenticeship in training, recruitment training, with that most amazing man, Tony Byrne. And it was brilliant. I later went on to work with the legendary Anne Swain, CEO of AppSco.
Yeah.
And that kind of solidified it for me. If I could pick 2 of the greatest people, and Anne at that point was training as well, and still does. She's one of the greatest, great speakers in our industry. So I was really fortunate, Terry. And I say that with. I say it with all integrity. I was really, really fortunate or blessed, I think is probably a better word, that in all of the things that I've done, recruitment and training, I've actually had the greatest mentors and trainers that I could learn my craft from. So and I think Tony was the person that got me into the training side. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah. And like you said, he really is a legend, and that's often used for people. But Tony Byrne really was a legend in the industry, in the training recruitment industry. Absolutely.
Sorry, Roy. Sorry, just to sort of jump in here. You mentioned that you sort of built a recruitment company in the past. Just a quick question: if you were if you had to start from scratch and build a recruitment company from scratch today, what would you do differently that you perhaps didn't do then?
Drew, you know what? That's a great question. It's a really, really good question. And again, I'm going to date myself here. In terms of that first recruitment business, that I was working in, I started off as a junior consultant. The older listeners to this podcast will remember these days when we didn't have computers. Drew, close your ears. It's like we didn't have computers. We used to have card index boxes and telephone directories and
faxes.
And faxes.
See, Drew doesn't even know what a fax is.
I know, it's crazy, isn't it? But we were one of the first recruitment businesses actually to develop a recruitment specific database. So it's crazy to even think about doing that now, but there's some brilliant products out there, brilliant CRM software systems, but at this time, at this period in the recruitment industry, there wasn't anything like that. So we wrote this thing. The system kept crashing, every day it was crashing. But anyway, time moves on. Your question was, what would I do differently? I think I'm just really pleased that technology is there to support recruiters. So I suppose the thing that I would do differently is really try and understand and master the whole use of social media and engagement. Never to replace good traditional recruitment skills. And when I talk about that, I talk about phone skills, selling skills, etc. But to complement those skills. So never to replace. I frown if that would ever happen. I think good traditional selling skills coupled with mastery of social media, engagement, etc. recipe for success. So yeah, that's what I would do differently.
I agree with you, Roy. That's a great question you asked there, Drew, about what we do differently. It's kind of got me thinking, and for me, the thing I would do differently from my days is, as a recruiter, as the market was changing, people saying, there were other ways of getting business. I had very much what's called a fixed mindset, and my attitude always used to be, look, this is the way I've always done things, and there is no other way. Yeah. And I think that for me, the thing that I would do differently, it's called a stretch mindset, where you go, actually, do you know what? There is a possibility. There are other ways of doing things for getting business. And I had a great boss chap by the name of Keith Riley, and the thing he used to say to me, it's okay to make mistakes, because as human beings, we're all uncomfortable. But what he often used to say is, look, to achieve what you want to achieve, you've got to be okay making mistakes. Yeah. So the other thing I'd share with anybody that's entering the world, it's okay to make mistakes, and kind of roll with the punches when you make that mistakes. And it's such a great question, Drew. I'm gonna put you on the spot and say, knowing what you know now, when you first entered, what would you do differently, Drew? I'm really fascinated by this.
Yeah, again, very much the same as you two, is just embrace marketing. And I know, but just if everyone doesn't know, before I was sort of working with Terry, I had a telemarketing business that failed, and one of the reason it failed is because I didn't understand marketing. I didn't embrace as you said, the new technologies, but I didn't know how to get clients, didn't know how to generate leads, which is, one of the reasons that I studied it so sort of heavily now, is because I know that is really the key to success. But yeah, it would be just to get an education around marketing and master the art of sort of generating leads, attracting clients a lot earlier.
Yeah, excellent, great question that. And back to you, Roy. You're speaking to recruitment and search firm owners every day of the week, and I'm just curious here, in your opinion, Roy, what do you believe are again, put you on the spot, but what do you believe are the three main challenges that owners of recruitment and staffing firms are facing today?
That's good. Yeah, it's a great question. So the three biggest challenges. Okay, well look, the first one that I see a lot is technology. Okay, we kind of just said there, and we three are in agreement with this, that technology has been one of the greatest developments within our industry, and true success is about embracing and mastering that piece. But I think one of the biggest challenges for recruiters today is that technology has made the whole candidate sourcing piece a more level playing field than it's ever been before. Terry, you and I will remember those days that our clients didn't have access to databases of candidates. Our clients didn't have tools like LinkedIn or Facebook pages or LinkedIn groups to develop communities. They didn't have applicant tracking systems and really powerful CRMs. So in many ways, the recruiter that we were, say, in my instance 27 odd years ago, I didn't have those challenges. My clients were blissfully ignorant, and so for me to get proficient at sourcing, it was a different kind of skill. It's like you had to identify where this person was, but then you had to use sales skills, persuasion skills, whatever, to get those candidates working for you or with you. But technology has really evened out the piece. So clients, are being sold LinkedIn accounts and tools to compete directly against recruitment consultants, and it's not the level place that it needed. Sorry, that it once was. Sorry, it's more of a level ground than it ever was. But recruiters, I think, need to hone the skills of engagement and persuasion to survive and thrive. So technology, I think, is one of our greatest developments, but it's also one of our greatest challenges. Number 2 challenge, wow, okay. Really good question, because this has really put me on the spot. Technology, I think, was the number 1. Number 2, and it's a perennial challenge, again, recruitment business owners, search firm owners out there will empathize with this one. They'll breathe a sigh of relief as they're listening. People are our greatest challenge, and as business owners, your ability to be able to identify, recruit, train and retain the very best recruiters within our industry is one of those perennial challenges, but I think it's even more so now.
Yeah.
That because of the low barriers of entry, your best recruiters will be thinking, it's like any of us, even back in the day, any of us with the entrepreneurial spirit, as soon as we got successful at recruiting, we then wanted to go out and do our own thing. And I think again, these days, I think it's a lot easier for people to make that transition. So search firm owners are losing often really, really good people that are setting up their own businesses or being poached by competitive companies. I actually think those are the 2 biggest ones, Terry. I don't know if I would add a third to that. I'd be really scraping.
Yeah. Well, what was one thing that Drew and I do on a regular basis when we talk to owners? The question we ask them is this: if we could help you overcome your number 1 challenge, what would it be? And the 2 that you mentioned there, and the third, not necessarily in that order, but the one that always comes up again is getting more clients.
Yeah.
And they tend to be the three main challenges facing the owners and directors of recruitment businesses. Would you agree with that, Drew?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
All 3 of those, I'd say, are the 3 main challenges. And on the people side as well, I think you also see a lot of recruiters working with what I'd call a bad client as well.
Yeah.
So clients that either don't pay the bills or don't want to pay on time, or don't want to pay at all. Just a bad client. And obviously a bad client can be different depending on what business you're in, but just people, in terms of people, recruiters working with bad clients as well.
Drew, I think that's a really, really good point. And you know what, in all these years of doing this job and working with recruiters, whenever I hear that from a recruiter, they'll say to me, you know what, Roy, I've got this terrible client, it's a poor fee agreement, they don't pay the bills, they don't give me feedback on candidates or CVs, and then the opposite side, they'll often speak about candidates and say, I've got a terrible candidate, she doesn't return my calls, she deals behind my back, and she accepts, wants too much money, changes the goalposts, all of these things. The thing that I've found overwhelmingly is that a lot of these things, I'm not saying all of them, but a lot of those things around candidates and clients not being ideal is it's really primarily to do with the recruiter's qualification skill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think,
100%.
yeah, and Terry, if we, particularly with early recruiters, like rookie recruiters, if we can get into them really, really early and teach them that not all business is good business.
Yeah.
Don't just jump every time a client says, hey, I've got a requirement, because as rookies we're so desperate to please our search firm owner that we go, I've got this great client and I've picked up this job. And any veteran recruiter or any search firm owner out there will know that when they qualify a brief, they're almost looking to qualify out. Let's ask questions that almost get the business falling out, because far better that we get rid of it at the early stage before we get working on it and committing resources and time, sweat and blood. Let's get rid of it and really just keep questioning and qualifying until we find that real golden nugget of an opportunity or a client or a candidate that if you put effort into those people, that's going to give you the biggest return.
Yeah, really good point there. Drew's got a saying about, I don't know if we can talk about this, Drew, about putting clients on a pedestal. Explain what you mean when you talk about that, Drew.
Just what Roy said there. Just be willing to. When I say don't put clients on a pedestal, you'll get recruiters who will, who will bend over backwards to please every need, every demand of the client, even though they're probably not a right fit for the business in the first place. And it's just about having your set of terms, and as you said, therefore having a qualifying, some sort of qualifying process, so that you're only working with people who meet that criteria. But two, even if you do get some people that slip through the net who aren't perhaps right, being willing to walk away from that business as well.
Yeah,
that's a really good point there, walking away. And I think in particular for contingency recruiters, again, I'd be interested in your feedback on this. In our experience, Roy, the average contingency recruiter will fill between 20 and 30% of the job orders they're working on. Does that sound about right for you?
Yeah, absolutely. And again, it's that the ability of the recruiter to qualify that directly affects even that stat. I've seen it worse than that on people.
Yeah, likewise, I have as well. Qualify. Yeah. But here's something: even if they're filling 30% of the job orders, what it does mean is that 70% of the time they're working, they're not getting paid for it.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Absolutely crazy. And it's just getting their head around that and saying, look, why not work with less clients, work less and earn more?
Yeah.
And an example being, getting your clients to get some sort of commitment where they pay, whether it's an engagement fee, a retainer, whatever you want to call it, but the client's got some skin in the game. So you work on less jobs, but what we find is with the recruiters that work on retained assignments, their fill rate's 94%.
Yeah, and actually their fill rate's that high, but also their repeat business stat is generally very, very high. So, you're absolutely right, Terry. And look, one of your earlier questions was my experience as a recruiter. Well, again, the people that know me know that when I started in recruitment, it was at the lowest level, the kind of, Primark, stack it high, sell it cheap, everything. So my marketplace was retail, fashion retail primarily, but retail. So low salaries, high volume, low margin, really low fees. And part of my journey was really, progressing up the scale. And I ended up that first business that I had with James, I went to 30% fees from 12.5%. So it's like more than double my fee.
Yeah.
But I went from 100% contingency based to 100% retained.
You're listening to the Renegade Recruiter Unleashed podcast. For show notes, additional resources, and podcast updates, head over to www.therenegaderecruiter.com.
And then my last two businesses were 100% retained. So you're absolutely right. I've seen personally, not just as a trainer, but as a practitioner, as a recruiter, as a director of 3 recruitment firms, the real power of commitment on both sides, actually. You know, it's not just about let's get something from the client. I found that recruiters, when they had a retained client, you know, the recruiter felt like they had skin in the game. Everybody does, and so you're all working to, you know, to this common goal. So yeah, no, I totally agree with that.
Yeah. Right, off mic, so to speak, just before we started, you were telling us that you work with recruiters all over the world in something like 35 different countries.
Yeah.
In your experience of working with such a vast range of recruiters, are there any differences from country to country, in your opinion, Roy?
It's such a great question, you know, because I know that you know, a bank that's going through some difficulties right now. Whenever I fly in and out of airports, I always see their adverts in the runway talking about you know, one world, lots of different customs.
Oh, I know the bank.
Yeah, you know the bank that I'm talking about. And listen, you know, after working in the industry, you know, 27 odd years, I would say to you that 20 years ago, when I was talking with people in different countries, so, you know, I did my apprenticeship, I went to the States, I went to Australia, I went to different parts of Europe, and I studied recruitment. You know, I sat down with some of the best practitioners in our industry and asked them, how do you do this? Why do you do this? And 20 odd years ago, I found regional differences. You know, it was really accepted, and any of your US based or North American based clients listening to this podcast, you know, they'll know, if they've worked in the industry a long time, they'll know that 20 odd years ago, particularly the search industry was, in my view, this is my personal view, was at least 5 years ahead of the rest of the industry worldwide. So 5 years definitely ahead of the UK-based industry, European industry. Japan, which is one of the strongest recruitment, you know, growth markets, India, etc., Middle East, Far East, these markets weren't really even there, you know, and so we always used to herald the US side of our industry and say, look, they're 5 years ahead in terms of technique and performance, etc., etc. I think what's happened is, and in direct answer to your question, I don't see that divide anymore. And I train people, you know, and coach people in places as far-flung as, you know, Mongolia, I suppose, is the one that people kind of, I actually do have a client in Mongolia, and they happen to be British, but, you know, they employ Mongolian workforce. Their system is exactly the same as you know, as our system. Our system is exactly the same as some of my clients that I coach and train stateside. Our system or their system is the same as people, you know, recruiting in Singapore. And I think that what's happened is, you know, technology, social media, being able to sell to a global audience as opposed to a local or regionalized audience has meant that everybody has needed to find a methodology that crosses all borders, and I think that's what's happened.
Yeah, again, I would agree with you. There seems to be no difference whatsoever. You very much like you, Roy. We work with clients in Australia, New Zealand, America, Canada, Ireland, UK, and it's all much of a muchness. The terminology is different, CVs, resumes, that kind of thing. But you're absolutely right. But would you go along with that, Drew?
Yeah, I would. Sorry, just a question for you, Roy. One thing you've mentioned quite a lot is technology.
Yes.
I just wanted to know from you, if there was one piece or maybe even a few pieces of technology that you would recommend a recruiter to get, what would it be?
It's a really good question, Drew, and I wouldn't want to upset any particular company, because I talked to quite a few companies that you know, sort of operate technology into recruitment. But you know, basic pieces. Actually, okay. Look, what I can do is I can tell you about some of my favourite tools. If that helps. Yeah. Of course, we all love LinkedIn, we all love Facebook, we all love Twitter, and I think there are some recruiters I know that say, "Oh, I don't really want, you know, don't embrace Twitter. I don't see the point of it. It doesn't get me candidates and clients." Wrong.
Yeah.
I was dragged kicking and screaming to the Twitter sphere by Louise Triance of UK Recruiter. Louise, years ago, when Twitter first appeared, said to me, "Roy, you really should, tweet." And I was going, "No, Louise, who wants to know what I had for breakfast and, whether I was I'd woken up and stubbed my toe or whatever." And I actually poo-pooed it for I don't know, at least 2 years or 3 years. But boy, what a powerful tool. So those social media tools, I think, absolutely brilliant. But I also think you need tools to help you manage those tools. And one of my favorites at the moment is Hootsuite. I love Hootsuite. What it allows me to do is to monitor each of my social media channels, and it helps me if I need to do something like a multiple post across things, or if I know that I'm not going to be around, I'm on a train journey, I'm on a plane, or whatever, I can schedule some tweets to go out at times that I want them to go out on.
Yeah, good point. So just very quickly on that, Roy, for those that don't know, can you just give a brief overview of Hootsuite for those that don't know anything about it at all?
Yeah, and I will hold my hands up here. I'm Terry. I know off mic we were talking about our lack of technical skills, but I'm not a technician within my business. I'm really, really blessed in that I've got a number of people around me that, and they know who they are, that help me with all of these things. But my simple summary of Hootsuite is that it's almost like a dashboard summary of all of your social media channels. So, you can, instead of looking and logging on to LinkedIn and then logging on separately to Twitter and then logging on separately to Facebook and Pinterest and all the others that are out there, you essentially will look at the Hootsuite dashboard, and it will give you a snapshot of each of those different social media channels, but it'll also show you stuff that you've got scheduled. If you've got some tweets that are going out, it will show you those. You can also monitor, for recruiters, you can monitor your clients' feeds, their tweets, their posts, etc. And it's a really, really powerful tool. Another one, actually, that I would recommend, and it always surprises me that more recruiters don't know about this. I hold my hands up and say, look, I'm not technical at all, but I'm amazed. I often will be on a webinar with recruitment folks, and they say, how do you, keep abreast of what's going on in our industry and the different people that you work with. And I'm no magician. All I do is I look to see what other people are using, and then I try it, and if it works for me, then I adopt it. But Google Alerts is one of the most powerful tools that recruiters and business owners should really be adopting, and it's free. It's free. Hootsuite free. Google Alerts I love, because if I wanted to, when I talk about business development with clients, with recruiters, I always say to them, look, don't just pick up the phone and say, I want to do business with Coca-Cola. It's like, know something about that business over a period of time. Develop a relationship with them based on knowledge. And one of the simplest ways to do that is set up a Google Alert. Identify 20 companies you want to do business with over the next 12 months. Set up Google Alerts for each of those companies, so wherever that company name is mentioned, let's take Coca-Cola, wherever, actually that would be a tough one because Coca-Cola is mentioned quite a bit, but wherever that company name is mentioned, you'll get an alert, and you could do it on a as it happens notification, or you can just get a weekly digest or whatever. But it's such a powerful tool, and it's free. I love free.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah. Thanks for that. That's great. And as you rightly said, Roy, we were talking off mic, and the fact that you and I struggle to spell the word IT, never mind how to use it. but as you rightly said, Roy, we can't be good at everything. We can't be dashingly handsome and and modest, as well as have a great understanding of IT. So so be it. Don't you think, Drew? Oh dear, excellent. Another question for you, Roy. If you met a rookie recruiter who was or owner who was just embarking on the journey, so to speak, and they said, "Roy, what do you believe are like the rules of success in this industry?" What would you say those rules are?
Well, it's a great question, Terry. Really, really good question. So, look, there's so many different things that we could say here, but if I had to boil it down, I would say that there are, I don't know, 5 elements to success. Yeah, I'd say that there are 5 elements to success. The first one, we'd mentioned earlier on, would be purpose. It'd be like, whatever you do in life, make sure that the purpose, the reason why you're doing something is congruent with the business that you operate. And what I mean by that is, people go, oh, I just want a lifestyle business, they want a successful recruitment business, profitable recruitment business. They want to grow it and sell it within 5 years. But then you find out actually their life isn't set up like that. They can't or won't or don't want to really put the effort in to do that. And again, there's nothing wrong with that. It's like, but make sure that your your business actually is congruent with your purpose in life. So that's the first thing. Second thing is planning, and it's almost like the antithesis of successful recruiters it's almost the antithesis of recruiters and business owners, and I hold myself up with this. I was the worst culprit, and perhaps still are, that and on this one, Terry, I'd say do as I say rather than do as I do. Planning was never my strongest point, but it was the point actually that I had to work on the most in my business as a recruiter to get good at it. And planning is everything. If you're a business owner, it's about, you've got to have milestones in place for your business. Otherwise, you've got no direction, you've got no measurement of where you're going to. So planning is essential. For recruiters, planning is essential also. If you're not planning your day and setting up your day with, who are the people that you need to speak to, what are the outcomes that you're looking for, and getting that plan in place and working the plan efficiently, key thing. What else would I talk about? I would talk about, process, world-class processes. Recruitment, it's people, despite what people think, the greatest recruiters just wing it, they have no system. It's a lie, it's a myth. The greatest recruiters in the world may look like it's effortless, they may look like they're freestyling, but like jazz musicians, they would have learned classically. They learn the scales, they learn to do, the step-by-step stuff, and that allows them to be able to freestyle, as they get more proficient. So rookies, if you're rookies listening to this, don't be fooled when you look at your boss or you look at your veteran recruiters around you that make the whole thing look effortless and they never have to pick up the phone and everything else. They've done the hard yards. Don't copy their example now. Copy their example of what they had to do to get to that level.
Yeah, that's a great quote there.
Absolutely right. What else? Business owner success. Probably the biggest one. How many have I given you, Terry? I was saying to you there were, I think, 5.
Yeah, give me 2 more, Roy.
Okay, let's have a think about this. We've got purpose, we've got planning, we've got process. I would say people. People are it's like everything for us, right? People, if you're a business owner, it's the people that work with you, the people that you're able to attract, recruit, train and retain, and I think that's the piece. If you're a recruiter, people are your candidates and your clients and your colleagues, and I think people is our business. It's everything that we do, whether we're coaches to the recruitment industry, whether we're recruiters placing candidates, or whether we're recruitment business owners or search firm owners employing people to do all those things for us. People is the mainstay of what we do. And if you aren't somebody that's a good communicator, or you aren't somebody that can employ somebody that's a good communicator for you, then you are going to struggle. You're going to absolutely struggle. So that would be one of my success rules. The final one I would say is perform. Okay, so at the end of the day,
Roy, I'm well impressed with this. P's.
I'm on that alliteration. Is it alliteration? I'm on that kind of like, okay, let's just come up with an alliteration thing. Let's think about more P's. Yeah, the final one is performance. I'd say you've got to be able to perform. It's like you could be the best person in the world, in terms of like your character and everything else. You can have the best systems in place. You can have the best, coaches and mentors and all those kinds of things. But it comes down to you've got to do the numbers. You've got to be able to perform. And whether you're a recruitment coach or whether you're a recruiter or whether you're a recruitment business owner, you've got to know what your KPIs are, and you've got to hit. And when I say hit, I'm talking about smash, exceed. Targets aren't things that you just achieve. Targets are things that you should smash through, and that's the definition of success. People that that I coach now, that I see just do phenomenal things, they're looking past the target, whilst all of their colleagues are seeing the target as something to hit. These guys are punching through it, and that, I suppose, is the the final thing.
Excellent. So purpose, process, people, communication, influence, performance. Have I got everything there?
Planning, I think, was
planning.
The
Sorry, yeah, that's right. Second one.
That's all right. That's all right.
Excellent. Thanks for that. I'll ask you a question, Roy, but before I ask you, I've got a confession to make. Many, many years ago, when I was a recruiter, I used to work for Computer People many years ago, 27 plus years ago. And I remember going along to a conference, and I can't remember the name of the organisation now, but they were making some predictions about the recruitment industry. One of those predictions was that eventually, most of us, at the time when I was a recruiter, and when I worked for Computer People, we'd place our ads in magazines and in a national newspaper, and that's how you got candidates. And
yeah.
They went on this presentation, and their prediction was that eventually people will go online, and most people have computers at home, and they'll go online to get that. And I sat in this conference thinking, what a waste of time and utter nonsense.
Yeah.
What the hell do I know?
It was an interesting one, wasn't it? I heard the same things.
Yeah, but hey, and look what's happened to the industry. So you've been in the industry, 20 plus years now. What do you believe the future holds for the recruitment and search industry?
I think it's a great question, Terry. And like you, I grew up in that generation where I was being told, by my teachers, like, oh yeah, computers are going to, change our lives, and we'll have more leisure time and all this kind of stuff. Again, it's like it's BS in a sense, because now I see people absolutely riveted and tied to technology. It's like, how many people do you see now walking down walking down the road or sitting on a train with their head up? It's like most of us have got some kind of electronic device that we're talking into, or get sort of doing something on. But look, my prediction is a really simple one. I think that the recruiter of the next 20 years isn't going to be the person that was perhaps successful 20 years ago. So 20 years ago, you'd have been a good recruiter if you were able to source candidates and put bums on seats, and essentially that was the job, and that's what we got paid for. I think today and tomorrow's recruiter is not going to be about your ability to place candidates. I think the most progressive recruiters are going to be the ones that are seen as true, the true definition of the word consultant. So a consultant is not an order taker. A consultant is not somebody that just takes a job brief and supplies a candidate. I think a true recruitment consultant is going to be somebody that clients will liaise with and consult with in order to be able to look at how do we attract, train, and most importantly, retain. I think recruiters of tomorrow are going to be valued for their experience and their advice on the retention piece as well as the attraction piece. And I think that's how recruiters will be judged. I think one of our KPIs, and I've been talking about this for years, saying to my clients, look, one of the stats that you should look at in your business is not just the number of placements that you make, or the number of temps you have out, but actually the longevity of those placements. So, of all the placements that you made in the last, that you've made, how many of those placements are still working within that same firm after 6 months, 12 months, 24 months, etc. And I think because that's what people are looking for. Sorry, that's what employers are looking for. We want someone that, if we're looking for short-term help, that's fine. But if we're looking for somebody to really grow our business, we want you to help us identify people that can grow with us and will be with us, and we can get real value out of. So I think it's the retention piece. I think clients will be looking to recruiters definitely on the attraction, but instead of just bums on seats, they'll be talking to us about their whole attraction, talent acquisition piece. So, how do we do selection days? How do we do psychometric testing? How do we advertise? How do we market? How do we use social media assets in order to build our candidate banks? So only time will tell, Terry, but let's get down to Paddy Power or William Hill, put some bets on. Wish I'd had shares in Google, etc.
Yeah, absolutely. That's great. That's very interesting. So thanks for the predictions. Tell me, if you could change one thing about the industry, what would it be?
Do you know what? There's not much that I would change. People ask me all the time. They say, people I meet that don't understand our industry say, the recruitment industry, it's this, it's that, and there's a negative kind of association with it. I think unfairly, and probably based on activities that went on years ago. But for me personally, working in it 27 years, I love this industry. I've always loved it. It's given me so much opportunity, and I've seen it giving so many other people opportunity. I think we have one of the greatest industries in the world. And the reason why I say that is that it took me 3 years to really understand the positive impact that myself as a recruiter had on people's lives. Because when I first started, for 3 years, I kind of just looked at it and go, well, you know what, I get a job, I get a candidate, I bring them together, I get paid, end of. And I was blissfully ignorant about it. I got paid, and I was a young chap around London and spending my money and doing the things that young chaps do. But it wasn't until I bumped into a candidate, and this guy said to me, you don't remember me, do you? I was struggling. I may have had a drink or two. He said, you placed me 3 years ago. I went, wow, okay, fantastic. Just really pleased that somebody had recognized me. He said, look, I just wanted to shake your hand and thank you. You changed my life.
Wow.
So by this stage, I was a little bit embarrassed. I'm like, okay, I'm thinking there's got to be an angle here. And he said, no, genuinely, you changed my life. It's like I've been promoted 3 times in the company that you placed me with. And I'm like, wow, and that was enough. He said, no, there's more. By this stage, I was thinking maybe I should be getting away from this guy. But he said, I've been able to go on. He said, I've gone away on holiday. He said, twice a year. I've travelled to different. And he said, I've gone long haul. He said, before I met you, he said, I'd never been on a plane before.
Wow.
It changed my life. He said to me, he said, I'm out celebrating today. I said, oh, no, one thing I forgot. He said, I just put a deposit down on a flat or an apartment in London, and I've never, it's my first property. And I'm like, wow, man. He said, you changed my life. And then the final piece, I said to him, why are you out tonight? And he said, I'm celebrating. I just got engaged. I went, well, I'm sorry about that bit. He said, no, you changed my life. You changed my life. And it was at that point that I actually realized, and it's not just the candidates' lives that we change. You change your clients' lives. You change the colleagues of the company that you put this candidate into. If you can imagine the family of this guy that I placed, not only his fiance, but his mum, his dad, his friends, his neighbours, all positively influenced by maybe, a set of phone calls and a process that I'd taken him through 3 years previously. And I think you asked me, is there one thing that I would change? I wouldn't change much of it. The one thing I would change is that we as an industry start to view ourselves as a professional service industry. You know, in the same way that accountants view themselves, in the same way that doctors or lawyers view themselves. And I think there are recruiters out there that do believe this. You know, there are, but we are in the minority. I think there's a whole lot more that go, oh, you know, it's sales, and you know, it's like it's just shifting people about, and they don't have integrity with it. I think when we as an industry are able to view ourselves as a professional services industry in the way that those other ones do, and hold ourselves to a higher standard as an industry, then I would be really pleased. That's the one thing I'd change.
Excellent. That's fantastic.
Awesome. And again, one question, Roy. What are some of the biggest mistakes that you see, and the same for you, or now same question to you, Terry, the biggest mistakes that you see recruiters make in today's market?
Terry, do you want to answer that one, or shall I?
Okay. Biggest mistakes. I think the most obvious one and when owners and directors of recruitment businesses get this one, you can literally see a light going on, and it's this. The mistake is they believe to be successful, if I'm good at what I do, i.e. so I'm good at finding people and finding candidates and filling those roles, I will have a successful business.
Yeah.
That's not true. See, I've never ever met a highly successful owner of a recruitment or search firm who's got like a ton of business and is generating leads all the time, who's struggling. The only guys that are struggling are those guys that haven't got enough clients. But those guys that are doing exceptionally well and extremely successful, they've mastered the art of client attraction. They've mastered the art of having the ability to attract clients and candidates so that they come to them. Again, off mic, we were talking about the power of Facebook, and it can sometimes leave me speechless that, in my opinion, probably 90% of recruiters and search firms have no idea of the power of Facebook.
Yeah.
And how. And Roy, you won't mind me saying this. You're spending, £5 a day or something, but generating a ton of leads. That's not unusual for recruitment and search firms. But many recruitment search firms don't even use the facility, and it's literally costing them money. So I say the mistake is getting it all wrong and thinking, if I'm good at doing the recruiting, I have a successful business. No. If you get really good and master the art of client and candidate attraction, you'll be extremely wealthy.
Yeah.
I think that's, I totally would agree with that. And, you know, Drew, just to kind of give it a different spin, it's like Terry's picked up there the, biggest mistake that recruiters make, and I would agree with that. The biggest mistake I see recruitment business owners and search firm owners making is the mistake that I made. And actually, it really dovetails with what Terry has just said there. When I started my first recruitment business with James Kahn, I made the biggest mistake of my life. And the reason why I say that is I assumed, all right, we all know where that got people, I assumed that because I was a good recruiter, I knew how to make money, I knew how to source candidates, I knew how to make placements, I knew how to generate, new business, I knew how to sell. I just assumed that if I was good at those things, then I was going to be a great recruitment business owner or search firm owner. Wrong. I was struggling, man. All of a sudden you're kind of like, running a business, employing people, paying taxes, responsible for stuff. And I think it's a massive, massive mistake. Now, I had to go back to school, school of hard knocks, but I had to sit down with people like James and Tony Byrne and loads of other mentors that I've had in my life to go, okay, look, I understand the recruitment piece. How do I run a recruitment business? Yeah. So the biggest mistake that I see being made these days by search firm owners, people that really haven't made that distinction, and then the other piece of that is they are very busy, and it's like, look, if anyone's listening to this, I don't mean any disrespect by what I've just said. We're all doing the hardest, doing the best that we can. But one of the biggest mistakes that I see search firm owners making is that they are busy in their business recruiting. So they're busy working in their business as opposed to working on their recruitment business and developing that business. Yeah, that would be my answer.
Yeah, and just to add to that, and you know, as you listen to it, and you kind of contemplate what Roy just said there, because it's again another gem. There's a book I'd recommend you read if you haven't read it. It's The E-Myth by Michael Gerber. So the letter E, then myth, M-Y-T-H, by Michael Gerber, G-E-R-B-E-R, and it's why most small businesses fail and what to do about it. And he goes into this in a lot more detail about what most small business owners do. And don't say, well, my business is different because I'm a recruiter. No, it's all the same. Because most owners of businesses do, as Roy says, they work in the business and they don't get the concept of working on the business. And there's a massive difference. But the highly successful owners of businesses kind of get that concept, and they spend a lot of time working on the business, because that's where you're going to get your success. Because you will either have a job, so you'll bill and you'll earn money, or you have a business. So regardless of your own personal billings, you've got a very good income. And it's that shift in thinking and awareness between working on the business and in the business. I'd really recommend you get that book. And if you haven't got time to read, you can get it on audio. You can listen to it while you're in the gym or commuting or whatever. But it's well worth it. But that's a real gem, and thanks for sharing that with us.
Oh, no, listen, Terry, that's my pleasure. And you know, I know you probably won't know this, but I totally endorse that book. It's like I buy a copy of that book for anybody that I'm coaching, and I send it to them. And the reason why I buy it, you know, it's my favorite business book, right? No bones about it. It's my absolute favorite business book. And the reason it's my favorite was that I read it years ago. It totally transformed the way that I ran my recruitment business. It affected me. It had such a profound effect. I jumped on an aeroplane. I went to Napa Valley in California and sat down with the author, Michael Gerber. And I just said to him, this stuff is phenomenal. How do I apply this to a recruitment business? And I was really fortunate. Again, you know, I've been blessed with mentors, but I was able to really just sit down with the source of that book. It's phenomenal content.
Absolutely.
And you know, it's the greatest gift that I think we can give our people that we speak to today.
Yeah, and I mean, I think this says a lot about Roy and about our business. So what Roy does, he buys a book and gives it to our clients. We say to our clients, go and get that book, because we're tight-fisted. You know, you see the difference there?
Hey, just one more question for you both. I just want to get your opinion on something, and it's something that I've only perhaps noticed recently about recruiters or recruitment business owners in general, and about the industry, is that you often speak to recruiters, and there almost seems to be a lot of ego attached to how many people they employ. So you meet them at first and they'll be like, okay, I've got 10 consultants, business going really well. And you get speaking to them a bit longer and you find out actually only 2 of the consultants are performing.
Yeah.
You've got about maybe 4 or 5 of them that are just sort of maybe just about breaking even, and the rest is struggling.
Yeah.
I mean, what's your opinion on that? I mean, why does that happen so often? Why are people so reluctant to, 1, get rid of the people that aren't performing, and 2, why are there so almost ego attached to how many people they employ?
Terry, I'll pick that up.
Yeah, please, yeah.
If possible. Drew, I think it's a great question. I agree with you. I think there is a lot of ego. It's generally when, you know, recruitment business owners get together in a room, and before they know each other, it's the whole bravado that, you know, yeah, my business is going brilliantly well. And as soon as they get to know each other, it's like then, you know, the guard comes down, and you find that actually they share the same frustrations, the same challenges. And, you know, in reference to Terry's question earlier on, it doesn't matter what part of the country or the world or the region that they're in. It's like, you know, whether it's Mongolia or Middlesbrough, you know, we have the same challenges. I think as an industry, we've always struggled to find, you know, to identify, to attract and recruit really good people, and you know, and then the training and the retaining piece as well. And I think because of that, our industry, and it's a sales industry, right? Let's not make any bones about it. It's a sales industry. There is a sale element to it, and you do have to have persuasion powers, and that's not for everybody. And so a lot of people go through the doors, and for a lot of firms, it's a revolving door. They don't really last that long. They're almost straight back out and jettisoned out. Now, I think a lot of recruitment business owners have been embarrassed about that fact before, and so, we'll often kind of measure ourselves saying, oh, I've got 20 fee earners, I've got 50 fee earners, I've got 3 fee earners, etc. A question that I always love to ask people, anybody that I engage with, I say to them, okay, talk about the longevity of your staff, because for me, the longevity of their staff and also the revenue per consultant, average revenue per consultant, because for me, that's a more accurate measure. That will tell me whether you as an owner actually really practice what you preach. I speak to many owners and they'll say, oh, well, I've got 20 consultants. Brilliant. What's the average tenure? i.e. how long have they been with you? And they go 3 months. It's like, right, so you're just constantly recycling your workforce. Whereas the better ones, and there are some phenomenal ones out there, people I know, Terry, in your group and people in my group, that actually they're really good, solid people. They value their consultants. They know how difficult it was to be able to find good people, and they treat them well, and they don't just ignore them. A lot of people ignore their superstars and go, okay, well, let's put all of our focus into training rookies. Like, that's wrong. We need to ensure that our best performers actually receive the very best investment in terms of, advancing and developing their skill set. If you don't, someone else will, and they'll leave you. I would say, Drew, that there's a lot of ego amongst most recruitment business owners, but when you get them in a room and you get people being honest, I think you'll find that the challenges we all face are universal. They're universal.
Yeah. I would endorse what you said there, Roy. Absolutely. Often when I talk to the owners and directors, they will say things are fantastic, and the Lord makes you smile. They go, yeah. We've got loads of business. In fact, Harry, we've got more business than we can handle.
Yeah.
And I say, well, let's look at that. And what they mean is they've got lots of job orders, but as we talked about earlier, they won't fill most of their job orders, and they're kind of busy fools. And you're absolutely right. There is that ego. Yeah, well, it kind of leaves me speechless sometimes. Terry, I don't need your help. We're doing really well. Well, that's great. And funny enough, we ask the same question. What's the average performance of your consultants?
Yeah.
What's the revenue per consultant? And we get some shocking figures that leave us speechless. Quite frankly, if a consultant's average fee is 50,000, 70,000, you're losing money on that consultant in the scheme of things. And as Drew said, there's this ego. But one guy actually said to me, I nearly said his name though. One guy actually said to me, if I'm honest with you, Terry, when he kind of took down the barriers and got rid of all the BS that was going on around him, he said, I kind of feel that if I get rid of my consultants, my 3 underperforming consultants, which, by the way, will probably cost him about £8,000 a month.
Wow.
My friends and family will think I'm not doing as well as I've made out to be doing.
Yeah.
Can you get your head around that?
Yeah.
And this particular guy, he admitted that most of his personal billings went on paying the wages of 3 underperforming consultants. What the hell is going on there when people are doing that?
It's insane.
It is. And 20% of your consultants on average are underperforming. 20%. And by the way, look at your underperforming 20%. If you can't find 20%, maybe you ought to look at yourself and see if you're amongst that 20%. But 20% of your consultants are underperforming. As Drew says, 60% approximately are there or thereabouts, and 20% are overperformers. But the sad fact is, as an owner, you spend most of your time with those underperformers.
Yeah.
And most of the time worrying about those bloody underperformers. That is not a good sign. Quite frankly, you really need to look at that. And I always say this, if you're a registered charity and your sole aim in life is to keep underperforming consultants, well, great. You're doing the right thing. If you're serious about this, and you made a great term there, you said the better ones. I thought it was a really interesting term there, because we find that as well. There are a certain set of recruiters who are what we call the better ones, and they will talk to the likes of you, and they're constantly looking to improve.
Yeah.
They don't claim to know it all, and they just view the world completely different, and they will get rid, quite frankly, of the underperformers.
Yeah.
And they've got a process in place to do that as well. That's very important, that you've got a process in place, that you can manage that whole process to get rid of your underperformers and keep hold of, as you said earlier, retain your top performers. That was a very good question, Drew. Roy, you've shared some gems with us, and you've said you've been in the industry a long time, and I know you started when you were very young. You're probably 4 or 5 when you entered the industry. You've just had a hard life looking at your photographs, but that's another story. But moving away from the industry, Roy, I'm going to get a bit personal, actually, if that's okay with you.
Easy.
Tell me, Roy, what's the one thing? Tell us one thing about you which not many people actually know about you.
Wow. Okay. It's funny, Terry, because there's so much stuff that I put out there. There's probably not many things that people don't know about me that's worth knowing. But look, let's refer back. I think at the very beginning of our time together today, I talked about growing up in a place called Brixton. An estate in Brixton, South London, in the UK, and I don't think many people will know this about me, that in 1977, the Queen Elizabeth II, celebrated her Silver Jubilee. Drew, you may not remember that, but Terry, you probably remember that, right?
Yeah, my parents told me about it, yeah.
Well, look, I was a very, very young child at that point, and I was at school with my sister. And I'm not encouraging this, so anybody with children, put your hands over your children's ears here. I persuaded my sister to let's bunk off of school. So we bunked off of school. Oh, sorry, the reason why we were doing this is I found out that the Queen, on her Silver Jubilee year, 1977, was going to do a walkabout in Brixton. So I'm like, wow, the Queen is coming. The Queen of England is coming to Brixton. No one came to Brixton at this point, right? So I persuaded my sister, a year younger than me, to let's doll off of school. Let's get out, don't tell anybody that we're going. Let's get out and let's see, the Queen's coming. So she said, okay. She generally did what I asked her to do at that point. So cut a long story short, the Queen came on walkabout. My sister and I were fortunate to get to the front of a crash barrier.
Excellent.
And as she was walking, she shook my hand, my sister's hand, and the Duke of Edinburgh, right? So we shook his hand and her hand. Now that was brilliant. What a lovely, lovely experience, and it will always remain with me to this day. And it was fine. The problem was that there was a photograph taken. One of our biggest newspapers, London newspapers, was the South London Press. And they took a photograph of the exact moment that I was shaking hands with the Queen and my sister was shaking hands with the Duke of Edinburgh.
Oh.
And it was flashed across the front page of South London's largest circulation newspaper. We were absolutely battered by my mum, my family, the school. Everybody was furious, but I think my mum was secretly proud as well. So yeah, not many people know that about me, Terry.
No, so you bunked off school to meet Her Royal Highness.
Yeah, I kind of think that's reasonable, don't you?
I think it is as well, actually. I think it's quite understandable. Probably in future life, future years rather, you could be in line for a knighthood or something for that. What with that, along with your services to the industry, I can see that. I can see that as I speak.
I'll let you run that campaign, Terry. Thank you.
That was excellent, Roy. Thank you very much indeed. Before I sign off, I'm just going to check in with you. You got any other questions?
No. It's been very good.
Yeah, Roy, that's been absolutely fantastic, and thanks for you've really shared some gems with us. Some of the things that you said at the beginning was about this is to enjoy the journey.
Yeah.
And encouraging owners to have a well-defined purpose and a why. What will it give them that they haven't got now as to what they want to achieve? About embracing technology. Then you share some of the technology. I mean, and you kind of tease yourself about what you don't know, but you talked about Hootsuite and the power of Hootsuite, Google Alerts, some absolute gems there.
Thank you.
Then you came up with what I call is it the 5 Ps? The secret ingredients for success is having a well-defined purpose, planning, process, people, performance, and as you rightly said, communicating and influence. That is so true. Tracking and training. You've had the pleasure of working with some of the real gems in the industry, like Tony Byrne, James Caan, and you then talked about recruiters' ego and the BS that goes on with some recruiters, but less so with the better recruiters. and then that shocking revelation about bunking off school. I'm going to say though, Roy, 1977, you would have been what, 45, 46? I'm going to ask.
Yeah, I was a mature student.
Yeah, right. Seriously, bunking off school to meet the Queen. I don't see why you should be punished for that. But on a serious note, you shared some absolute gems with us. I really appreciate it. A fantastic interview, and very much appreciated. And I know, Roy, that the guys listening to it and go, oh, I've got to meet this guy. I want to connect with this guy. So your website, correct if I've got this wrong, is 3 W's, www.royripper.com.
That's correct. Yeah, royripper.com.
Yeah, Roy, R-O-Y, Ripper, R-I-P-P-E-R.
That's correct.
.com.
Yeah.
So again, there's P's coming to it again. That's another coincidence. Of course, you guys about saying that you're on LinkedIn and the Roy Ripper. I understand you got a free gift for some recruiters. Can you tell us a bit about that, please? Roy?
Sure, Terry. It's really just to kind of say thank you to you two, to yourself and Drew, but also every listener on your podcast, and trying to give something back. And I've developed this mind map, and I developed it actually for my private coaching group, but it was such a powerful tool that actually I thought, you know what, it's like I think the people that listen to your show would really value it. So this mind map is essentially, it's 114 questions that every recruiter should be asking a client when they take a requirement, a client brief, a job on. And it was that thing that we talked about earlier on, qualification, qualification, qualification. If you ask these 114 questions, maybe not all of them, but if you can pick out the ones that really work for you, if you can compare it to the existing questions that you ask and, just enhance your own system with these questions, it will help you totally qualify out anybody, any client, any prospect that's not serious about doing business with you. So we've set up, I think, a special site for people to come and get this. If they go to, it's a bit.ly link, so bit.ly/Terry Edwards. So if anyone listening to this show wants to get a free copy of that mind map, remember 114 questions, just go to bit.ly/Terry Edwards.
And just on the bit.ly, that's B-I-T.
Yep.
Is that .ly?
That's correct.
/Terry, T-E-R-R-Y, Edwards, E-D-W-A-R-D-S.
That's correct.
Get those 114 powerful questions that will save you time and money.
Brilliant. But if you're listening to this while driving or while in the gym, we'll put that link in the show notes, which you can get from the renegaderecruiter.com. And anything that we've talked about there, so links to Hootsuite and Google Alerts, things that we talked about in the show, you can get in the show notes as well, just in case you listen to this on the go.
Fantastic. Drew, thank you very much indeed. Roy, thank you very much indeed. This is Terry Edwards wishing you continued success. Take care, take action, and be relentless.
You're listening to the Renegade Recruiter Unleashed podcast. For show notes, additional resources, and podcast updates, head over to www.therenegaderecruiter.com.